Welcome to Citizen Survival Plan. Welcome back if you've been here before. Today, I'm going to do a video on some things that I've said that I have caught some controversy over, but I didn't think it would be controversial to say the things that I did say. But a lot of the things I cover on this channel are just to simplify prepping, not to make it too complicated. And the things that I recommend you use is also just to simplify the process. But this has caused some controversy, and in today's video, I kind of want to cover it. So let's get right into it. A big thing on this channel that I do a lot of is I cover a lot of GMRS radio stuff, how to program your radios, how repeaters work, just a lot of radio equipment content. I always recommend GMRS over ham. And this isn't because I think GMRS is a better radio system, but I have to live in reality. And the reality is most people, 99% of people who are watching my videos are not going to go get their ham license. If you want to get your ham license, that is awesome. Go get your ham license. It is a better radio system. But where reality sets in is just people aren't going to do that. And this is where GMRS steps in. It is a great radio service to get into. It offers up to 50 watts of power on base stations, 5 watts on your handhelds, and you can use repeaters up to 50 watts also. So it's an amazing radio system that's easy to get into and easy to use. This is another big part of GMRS. It's just easier to use. I can hand a radio to somebody who has no idea what they're doing, and I could show them how to use it in just a few minutes. A ham radio and how to operate all those frequencies and everything just isn't going to be that easy for someone who's new to radio. And a lot of that comes from there is so much content to cover on prepping, getting into firearms, food, storing food, everything that goes along with prepping, like water filtration. I mean, you name it. There's so much being thrown at a new prepper that it's just so difficult to tell them to just go learn how to do ham radio. Just go do it right now and then come back. It's just not a reality. There's just a lot being thrown at people right now. And I just think if you can get into GMRS and you can use that system and you want to get into ham radio later, then that's awesome. Do that. And another note I want to make about this, it's funny to me because I do a lot of GMRS content here and I show people how to use repeaters and stuff. Even as simple as it is, people still struggle with it and have problems understanding it. I don't want to throw ham radio into that too. I may get my ham radio license in the future. I'm actually looking at hamradioprep.com right now. I've done some stuff on it. I've looked through it, and it's going to take me a minute to get my ham license for sure. But that's me. I do this channel as part of my life. Most people don't prep as part of their life. They're just trying to get a plan together. This one was surprising to me, as I talked about getting an AR-15 over a 12-gauge shotgun and why I don't really like 12-gauge shotguns for prepping. People comment that 12-gauge shotguns are the most versatile guns on the market. Kinda, but also their versatility also kills them. Let me explain. No matter what you do with a 12-gauge shotgun, it's always going to be set up to the configuration you're using it in. So if I'm hunting birds, I'm going to have a long barrel with a choke in it, and I'm going to be using birdshot. This sucks for home defense. I can't use this without changing the barrel and changing the ammo every time I switch its rolls. And again, if I set it up as a home defense shotgun with, an 18.5-inch barrel and buckshot in it, it sucks as a hunting gun. And no matter what you do to a shotgun, it's never going to have the range and accuracy of a real rifle. Even if you put a slug barrel on it, like a rifled slug barrel, and put slugs in it, it's never going to reach the distances and accuracy of a real rifle. So its versatility is also what kills it in being a good all-rounder. I'm going to be constantly changing it back and forth to what I need to do with it. People commented all this stuff about changing the ammo and lowering the recoil of 20-gauge shells and putting slugs in it for this or putting buckshot in it for that. I understand. I understand the shotgun. I understand how it works. I have a shotgun. I get it. But again, its versatility sets it up for a very specific role for however you have it configured at that moment. Again, shotguns are heavy recoiling, they're low capacity, and they're limited to whatever configuration they're in. An AR-15 can rock and roll up close, and it can instantaneously go back out to 150 or 200 yards right away, just with a nice simple setup with just a red dot. All right, number 3. This one was the most surprising to me, and I still do not understand why people are mad about this. People were so angry with me about saying this, they resorted to personal insults over something as simple as this: freeze-dried food that cooks in a bag. There is nothing food prep wise better than like a Mountain House meal that cooks in the bag. It is the most convenient way to eat during an emergency. And I commented that you don't want to be doing dishes, or you don't want to need a lot of water and stuff and cooking and setup to make a meal during an emergency. When SHTF first hits, or whatever emergency you're in, the water might be out. It's not that I'm too lazy to wash a dish. It's that I don't want to need anything initially. Are you going to be eating freeze-dried food for the rest of your life? No. But during the emergency, when it hits right away, all the water's going to be out. There might not be power running. I want something as easy to make as possible. All I need is some boiling water, and just put it in that pouch, and I can eat. And if I have a lot of it stored up, I can eat like this for weeks or months. And in between, it's not a problem. If you want to go hunt or make other food, or if you find something else to eat that you need to cook, that's fine. It's when SHTF first hits, I want to be on my feet. I want to be cooking and eating right away. I want to have some easy things to use, and that is freeze-dried food. People were furious about. I don't understand why they were so angry. Maybe they bought a bunch of freeze-dried food that couldn't cook in the bag, and they were talking out loud in the comment section trying to justify their purchase. I don't know. I still do not understand it. But this is prepping made easy. This is freeze-dried food. This is the way you should store at least a portion of your food. This is a big one. I kind of understand why it was controversial, but not really. This is Bugout Bags being mostly useless for long term. I feel like in the beginning of my channel, I had mentioned that you're not going to live out of a bag for weeks on end. And again, people were furious at me about saying this, saying, oh, a bunch of grown men survivalists are just losing their shit over me telling them they can't live out of a bag in the woods. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It doesn't seem that controversial to me. If you're like an adult and like, you just understand reality. There's so many problems to this. And this isn't necessarily directed at the ultra survivalist out there that think that they can like live in the woods for a long period of time, or if they're, living in a cabin mostly in the woods, that they couldn't do this. This is for everybody. Again, this channel isn't about you, and it's not about me. It's about people trying to get prepared. And I think coming out and telling everybody that if they pack a Bugout bag and they can just up their survival skills enough that they're going to live out of the woods for a long period of time out of a bag is stupid. I will stand by that forever. It is just not a smart thing to try and tell people. And in my opinion, people who have renamed their Bugout bags inch bags are just people that couldn't accept that the Bugout bag was not a good long-term option. And instead of just admitting their failure, they just renamed it something else. It didn't help them, but maybe some internet, maybe people on the internet watching were convinced that if, you had an inch bag instead of a Bugout bag, that, maybe you could live longer with that. In my opinion, a bag is just a bag. I have so many videos about this, but just to sum it up, A Bugout bag is meant to get you from point A to point B as comfortably as possible. There is just too many problems with living long-term out of a bag. You know, there's cooking, food preservation, your infections. You know, you get infections living in the woods or getting cut or getting bit by something. Filtering water, hygiene, the list goes on and on and on. But this is going to be extremely difficult. And I think for the majority of people, even me, I don't think I could live out of a Bugout bag for more than a week or two. I mean, that would be even just like stretching it as hard as you possibly could. A week or two, like maximum. I really think it's 72 hours. And you need to get where you're going or do what you need to do in 72 hours, especially if you have children with you. The last one, Glocks. I really do believe Glocks are the way to go. And we are not a gun channel. We are not a gun collecting channel. I think some of the people who are prepping aren't necessarily even into guns. And that's okay. But if you're trying to get a pistol just to work and you just need something reliable and serviceable, Glocks really are the way to go. If you ever meet anybody who is into guns and they tell you Glocks are junk, I would probably advise that you don't ever take their advice on anything gun related. They don't know what they're talking about. I've never been to a gun store or any reputable dealer or any military service member that I've ever met over the years that doesn't like Glock and doesn't think that they're great. I'm going to include this little story that is not planned, but I had a friend that worked at a indoor shooting range, and I had asked him what was the gun that lasted longest. Instantly, without even question, he said Glock. He's like, the Rugers and the SIGs and everything all eventually fall apart. And I'm not going after those brands. That's not what the point of this is. The point is he instantly said Glock, and Glocks held up the best. And you talk to so many instructors that run classes or gun ranges, the rental guns that are Glocks, they'll always say they hold up longer than anything else without issue. But that's not the only reason I like Glock. When I first start looking at Glock, I love how the parts availability and repair is so simple. I can get a rebuild kit for a Glock, like a barrel that you'll probably never wear out, but the extractor, some of the springs and stuff for it are so simple and cheap and easy to get. I store up all kinds of parts here for my firearms, and the Glock was just really easy to do. It was just so simple. So like serviceability and reliability is just top notch. Again, if you're a gun collector, you know, they're not as exciting. I mean, they're not that cool. They're boring. They're boring black guns. They don't look that cool. They're whatever. I mean, I get it. They're not that cool, but they work. We are planning for a severe emergency. Glock is the way to go. Last thing I want to bring up about Glocks, and this is just funny to me, the same people that will comment that their hands won't fit a Glock and they can't do it because their poor precious hands can't grip the angle of a Glock will also be the same people that will comment on my shotguns aren't that great for SHTF because of their heavy recoil. Well, they'll comment on that and say how much of a baby you are for not wanting to handle the recoil of like 12 gauge slugs or something, but then they can't even wrap their hand around a Glock.